Chosen one. Before you scroll past this video, pause for just a moment. Have you ever wondered why the people who pray with the deepest faith sometimes seem to walk through the longest seasons of silence? Not because they believe less, not because they've done something wrong, but because something is unfolding beneath the surface, far deeper than anything your eyes can see. Chosen one, if that question feels personal, then perhaps this message is for you. Maybe you've been praying for healing from an illness for months, perhaps even for years, yet every medical report still seems to tell the same story. Maybe you've prayed over financial burdens every night before falling asleep, yet the numbers haven't changed. The weight still feels just as heavy. Perhaps you've prayed for your marriage, longing for it to become warm again as it once was. Yet dinner after dinner passes in silence. This message is not here to promise that tomorrow everything will suddenly be different. Instead, it invites you to consider another possibility, that even while your circumstances appear unchanged, a different kind of healing may already be taking place, one that begins where human eyes cannot reach. Stay with me for the next few minutes, not because you're afraid of missing something, but because perhaps these are the very words your heart has been waiting to hear for a long, long time. Chosen one, imagine this for a moment. There are surgeries where the incision on the outside is no larger than the tip of a finger, yet inside, an entire organ is being repaired. Damaged tissue is being restored. What was once broken is being carefully made whole again. The person lying on the operating table cannot see any of it. The family waiting outside the operating room cannot see it either. All they see is a small incision, and what feels like an endless season of waiting. Many believers have come to understand that the life of faith often unfolds in much the same way. Psalm 34 verse 18 has comforted countless people through sleepless nights. It reminds us that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, not only after every problem has been resolved, not only when life finally makes sense, but right in the middle of the deepest pain. Chosen one, perhaps you've grown accustomed to measuring life by what your eyes can see. Has the situation changed or not? Has the medical report improved or not? Has the bank balance increased or not? That's how most of us have learned to evaluate our lives. But perhaps what you're experiencing isn't a cold silence from God. Perhaps something far different is taking place. Perhaps you're in the middle of a kind of surgery, not one that's happening inside your finances, not one that's happening inside your illness, not one that's happening inside a struggling marriage, but somewhere even deeper than all of those things, within your own heart. And if that's true, then perhaps the most important question today is not, when will my circumstances change? Perhaps the deeper question is this: what is God quietly healing within me, even while I feel forgotten? Chosen one, let me ask you something honestly. Is it possible that what has exhausted you the most isn't the illness, isn't the debt, isn't even the distance that's grown inside your marriage, but simply not knowing how much longer you have to wait? Waiting carries a weight all its own. It doesn't wound the way sudden pain does. Instead, it lingers, quietly, steadily, like an ache that never completely leaves because you cannot see where it ends. You pray today. Then you pray again tomorrow. Another week passes. Then another month. Sometimes even another year. yet your circumstances appear exactly as they did on the day you first knelt in prayer. Many believers have found themselves returning to Isaiah 55, where Scripture reminds us that God's thoughts are not our thoughts, and His ways are not our ways. For many, these words are not simply an explanation. They are a gentle reminder that there is often a distance between the way we measure time and the way God is at work. Chosen one, have you ever felt as though your life has been standing still while everyone else's keeps moving forward? I once heard a woman describe it this way. She said the hardest part wasn't the chronic illness she carried. The hardest part was watching everyone around her continue living their lives. Friends getting married, receiving promotions, taking family vacations, celebrating new beginnings, while her own life seemed frozen, as though every day simply repeated the one before it. She didn't tell that story because it ended with everything suddenly becoming perfect. She shared it because one day she realized something she had never seen before. Time had never truly stopped. It had simply been moving in a different way, on a level she had not yet learned to recognize. Chosen one, perhaps the hardest part of your journey isn't the burden itself. Perhaps the hardest part is not knowing why you have to wait. You don't know how long the waiting will last. You don't know whether this season will ever come to an end. You don't know whether you're waiting for something that may never unfold the way you've imagined. Those three unknowns, layer upon layer, can become heavier than the hardship itself. But perhaps not knowing doesn't necessarily mean that nothing is happening. Chosen one, let me speak honestly about something many people are afraid to admit. Some of life's deepest pain doesn't come from one dramatic event. It comes from repetition, from the same burden returning again and again and again, until it no longer feels like something happening to you. It begins to feel like part of who you are. A long-term illness is rarely defined by one moment of pain. It's thousands of small moments, layered upon one another, day after day. An unpaid debt isn't just a number on a statement. It's the feeling in your chest every time the phone rings, every time a new email appears in your inbox, every time you open your banking app, wondering what you'll see. A distant marriage isn't usually one unforgettable argument. It's hundreds of quiet dinners, hundreds of evenings spent sitting beside one another, yet somehow feeling farther apart than ever. Chosen one, if any of these describe your life, I'm not here to tell you they'll disappear tomorrow. I don't have the authority to make that promise, and neither does anyone else on behalf of something greater than all of us. Perhaps for you, it's waking up each morning, and before you've even gathered your thoughts, your body reminds you that the illness is still there. The familiar pain has become as much a part of your morning as the sound of your alarm clock. Perhaps for you, it's the slight trembling in your hands every time you open another envelope from the bank, even though you tried to prepare yourself beforehand. Perhaps for you, it's sitting across the dinner table from your spouse, hearing nothing but the quiet sound of silverware touching plates. No stories, no laughter, only a silence that has become painfully familiar. Chosen one, whatever form your pain has taken, whether it's one of these or something completely different, please don't believe it has become insignificant simply because it has lasted so long. Sometimes it becomes heavier precisely because it has lasted so long. There is something I'd like you to picture. I once heard about a man who opened the prayer journal on his phone. As he scrolled through it, he realized the very same prayer had appeared there every single day, for 8 straight months. Never checked off, never answered in the way he had hoped. He said the feeling wasn't exactly disappointment. It was emptiness, like carrying the same unanswered question to bed every night. Many believers return to Psalm 147:3. During seasons like these, He heals the broken-hearted and binds up their wounds. For countless people, these words are not a promise that everything will change tomorrow. They are first a reminder that wounded hearts are seen, that pain is acknowledged, even before circumstances begin to change. Chosen one, pain that has not yet been explained, is not the same as pain without purpose. Perhaps you still don't understand why the debt remains. Perhaps you still don't understand why the illness continues. Perhaps you still don't understand why your marriage feels so distant. But not understanding is very different from having no meaning at all. Those are not the same thing. Chosen one, if you forget everything else from this message, remember this one truth. The fact that you haven't received the answer you hoped for does not mean your question is unimportant, and the fact that your circumstances remain unchanged does not mean your prayers have gone unheard. There is often a space between being heard and receiving exactly what we long for. That space is where faith is often tested, and perhaps it is also where quiet, unseen work is already beginning. Chosen one, this may be the hardest part to talk about. But I won't avoid it, because if I do, then everything I've said so far becomes nothing more than empty words from someone who has never truly stood where you're standing now. There comes a moment that many people never admit to anyone, not even to themselves. It's the moment you quietly wonder, am I praying the wrong way? Do I simply not have enough faith? Or is no one listening at all? Chosen one, this isn't a theoretical question. It's the question that may have found you at 3 o'clock in the morning, while driving home alone, while staring at the ceiling after everyone else has fallen asleep. Or perhaps it's the very question you're carrying as you listen to these words right now. I won't pretend that question isn't frightening, because it is. If the answer were truly, no one is listening, then everything you've held on to through your darkest seasons, everything you've believed, everything you've leaned on, would seem to fall apart all at once. Picture someone sitting alone in a car after an exhausting shift. The parking lot is nearly empty. It's well past midnight. The engine is off. The headlights have gone dark. A phone rests silently on the passenger seat. No new messages, no missed calls, no sign that anyone, anywhere, has thought about them today. And in that quiet moment, the deepest question isn't, when will my circumstances finally change? It's something much simpler and much more painful. Does anyone even see me? Chosen one, if you've ever sat in a car like that, whether literally or only in your heart, I'm not going to tell you those feelings are wrong. I'm not going to ask you to pretend you're stronger than you are. I'm not going to tell you to force a smile or speak words your heart cannot honestly say. Instead, I'd like to remind you of a father in Mark chapter 9. Standing before Jesus, he spoke one of the most honest prayers recorded in Scripture. I believe, help my unbelief. He didn't say, I believe without a single doubt. He admitted something far more human. I believe, and at the very same time, I struggle. Those two realities lived together inside his heart. Chosen one, perhaps doubt is not the opposite of faith. Perhaps doubt is one of the places where faith is refined most deeply, not during seasons when everything is working exactly as you hoped, but during the nights when you sit alone, without answers, and yet somehow you still don't walk away. I'm not going to rush toward comfort here. Some wounds don't need immediate explanations. They first need to be acknowledged. Chosen one, let me remain with you for a moment in that quiet place, instead of hurrying past it. You've prayed. You've done everything you knew to do. You've trusted God as sincerely as you knew how. And still, the circumstances remain, not once, not twice, but so many times that you've lost count of how often you've prayed the very same prayer. There have been nights when you've wondered, am I doing something wrong? Am I not patient enough? Am I not strong enough? Maybe I'm simply not worthy. Chosen one, please hear this slowly. Please hear it clearly. Doubting in the darkness is not proof that your faith has failed. It is simply proof that you are human, a real person, carrying real pain, inside a very real struggle. And real people grow tired. Real people ask difficult questions. Real people sometimes sit in the darkness without pretending everything is okay. If today you find yourself sitting in that car, whatever that car represents in your own life, I want you to know this. You are not the first person to have sat there. And the fact that you are still here, still listening, still searching, still willing to hear one more word, is already saying something. It is not the evidence of surrender. It is evidence that somewhere, beneath all the disappointment, a small part of your heart has not let go completely. Chosen one, there is something I want to tell you now. As we begin to step out of the heaviest part of this journey, perhaps loneliness isn't simply the absence of people. Sometimes it comes from something even more painful. There are people sitting right beside you, your spouse, your closest friend, your own family, and yet you still feel completely alone because no one can fully understand what you're carrying inside. Chosen one, the loneliness you're feeling is not necessarily a punishment. It may be a sign that something is quietly being shaped within you, in a place no one else can reach, not even the people who love you most. Many believers see this reflected in Genesis 32. In the story of Jacob, on the night before he met the brother he had once deceived, Jacob found himself completely alone. No companions, no family, no one standing beside him. And there, through the darkness of the night, he wrestled with the one whom Scripture describes simply as a man. Until daybreak, that struggle left a mark. Jacob walked away with an injured hip. For the rest of his life, he limped. Yet on that very same night, he also received a new name. He was no longer simply Jacob, the one who grasped, the one who struggled for position. He became Israel, the one who wrestled with God and with men, and endured. Chosen one. Many people believe this story is not teaching that every healing journey is painless. Perhaps it is revealing something deeper. Some healings leave scars, not because God delights in your pain, but because a new identity is being formed, and that process is not always gentle. Perhaps the loneliness you're carrying today isn't evidence that you've been abandoned. Perhaps it is evidence that you are living through your own night of wrestling. Yes, you may feel alone, but alone is not the same as forgotten. Chosen one, Think about this for a moment. Some battles cannot have spectators, not because no one wants to stand beside you, but because certain parts of your soul can only be shaped when you face them in quietness, with no one else able to step into that place for you. Your friends can listen to your story. Your family can comfort you. People can pray for you. But the deepest struggle, the struggle between giving up or choosing to believe one more day, the struggle between letting go or holding on to hope by the thinnest thread, that is a battle only you can walk through. Perhaps that is why it feels so unbearably lonely, not because you've been left behind, but because this is a journey uniquely entrusted to you. If you've wondered why no one around you truly understands what you're carrying, perhaps it is because this wrestling was never meant to belong to anyone else. It is yours, and if there is a new name, a new heart, a deeper identity waiting on the other side, that too will be uniquely yours. Chosen one, if these words remind you of a prayer you've whispered countless times, may I invite you to try something different tonight, not as a ritual, not as a formula, not as a way to earn a miracle, simply as a quiet act of honesty. Instead of praying, "Lord, change my circumstances," perhaps try praying, "Lord, help me see what you are shaping within me, even while my circumstances remain the same." That isn't a guarantee that everything around you will suddenly change. It is simply an invitation to begin looking inward, instead of measuring everything only by what is happening outside. And sometimes, the first place God begins his deepest work is not around us, it is within us. Chosen one, may I give voice to something you may have never spoken aloud, not even to yourself. Perhaps your greatest fear is not that the illness will never heal, not that the debt will never be paid, not even that your marriage will remain distant forever. Perhaps your deepest fear is something much quieter, that this long silence means the answer has already been no. Have you ever been afraid of that? Afraid that this season of waiting isn't because something is still unfolding, but because the answer was settled long ago, and you're simply unwilling to accept it. Very few people are willing to say those words aloud, because speaking them feels like admitting that all the hope you've been holding on to was only an illusion. So most people remain silent. They carry that fear alone. They hide it, even inside their own prayers. Chosen one, I'm not going to pretend I know exactly what will happen in your circumstances. No one can honestly make that claim. But I'd like to invite you to picture something different. Imagine a gardener planting a single seed deep into the soil. The next morning, unable to wait, the gardener digs the seed back up to see whether the roots have begun to grow. If that happened, the seed would die, not because the soil was poor, not because the seed was defective, but because the very act of digging it up interrupted the unseen work already taking place beneath the surface. A wise gardener doesn't uncover the seed every day to check its progress. Instead, the gardener waters it, waits, returns faithfully, trusting that something is happening, even when the ground above remains completely unchanged. Chosen one, perhaps today you feel less like the gardener and far more like the seed itself, hidden beneath the darkness. Unable to see what's happening, unable to know whether anything is changing, simply waiting, without certainty. If that's how you feel, your feelings are real. And I don't want to minimize them. But even a buried seed, though it cannot see its own transformation, is still growing. Its roots continue reaching deeper, quietly, patiently. long before anyone sees the first green shoot break through the earth. That is how life itself often works, both in creation and in some of the hardest seasons of our lives. Many believers return to Romans 8:28, finding hope in its reminder that God is able to work through all things for the good of those who love Him. Not that every circumstance immediately becomes pleasant, not that every disappointment suddenly makes sense, but that even the things we cannot yet understand may still be woven into a purpose larger than we can presently see. Chosen one, think again about the gardener. The gardener doesn't know the exact day the roots will appear. There is no calendar marked with certainty, no guaranteed timetable, only the quiet confidence that beneath the dark soil, life is already at work. That isn't blind optimism. It is trust, rooted in the understanding that some processes cannot be rushed. Growth has its own rhythm. Roots deepen before branches rise. Foundations are laid before anything visible is built. And perhaps, so is faith. Chosen one, please listen carefully. The silence you're living through may not be God's way of saying no. The waiting you carry may not be rejection. This season that seems to have no ending may not be a closed door after all. Perhaps it is a hidden room, a place where something is being prepared with greater care than you can yet imagine. Not because you deserve a longer wait than everyone else, but because some things require time to become steady, to become strong, to become complete. So do not assume that silence always means absence. Do not assume that delay always means denial. And do not mistake what you cannot yet see for proof that nothing is happening. Perhaps the silence itself is quietly bearing witness that something deeply important is already being formed, far beyond the reach of your eyes. Chosen one, we've walked a long road together. Now let me ask you one final question, perhaps the most important question of all. What gives suffering its meaning? It isn't the moment the pain finally disappears, nor is it the moment you suddenly understand every reason it happened. Perhaps the meaning of suffering is found in how we choose to carry it. Some people carry pain until it slowly closes them off from the world. They become smaller, more guarded, more distant, eventually believing their lives no longer have much value. But others carry the very same kind of pain and somehow allow it to become something different. A deeper compassion for those who are hurting, a gentleness they never possessed before, the quiet ability to sit beside someone who is weeping without feeling the need to fix everything, simply because they have once sat in that same place themselves. Chosen one, I'm not going to tell you that you should be grateful for your suffering. That wouldn't be honest. And I don't want to offer you dishonest comfort. But I would like to invite you to consider another possibility. Perhaps, just perhaps, the hardest season of your life has not come to destroy you. Perhaps it is quietly shaping a part of you, a part that neither you nor anyone else can fully see, until the work has been completed. A long illness may be teaching you perseverance in ways comfort never could. An unpaid debt may be teaching you how to loosen your grip on control and to trust, even when the numbers on the page refuse to change. A distant marriage may be teaching you something about love that survives beyond emotion. A love that chooses faithfulness even when feelings grow quiet. I'm not saying these things happen automatically, nor am I suggesting you should suffer in silence. or avoid seeking the help you truly need. Whether that help is medical, financial, emotional, or relational, seeking help is not evidence of weak faith. Often, it is an expression of wisdom. Chosen one. Let me tell you about someone whose story I have never forgotten. She lived with a chronic illness for nearly 20 years. For 2 decades, not a single morning passed without pain greeting her before the day even began. One day she said something that has remained with me ever since. She told me, "This illness taught me how to listen to people in a way I never knew before." Because she had learned something few textbooks could ever teach. Behind a smile, there may be an invisible battle. Behind calm words, there may be a weary soul. She learned that lesson, not from a classroom, but from her own body. From countless difficult mornings, she never said she was thankful for the illness. She never wished anyone else would experience what she had endured. She simply said this: "If I had to choose between allowing my pain to make me bitter or allowing it to make me gentler, I chose the second." Every day, sometimes, every single hour. Chosen one. That is not an easy choice. No one has the right to demand it from you. No one should expect you to make it overnight, or to make it perfectly. But perhaps this is worth remembering. The meaning of pain is not determined by when it ends. Its meaning is often revealed in who you become while you are still carrying it. Even before the answers arrive, even before circumstances change, even while the burden remains, you still have the freedom to become more compassionate, more patient, more steadfast, not because life suddenly became easier, but because your heart learned another way to carry what it could not yet lay down. Chosen one. Before we finish our time together, may we slow down for just a moment. There is one final picture I hope you will carry with you. Imagine a small lamp left burning through the night, in the middle of a long hallway. It isn't dazzling, it doesn't flood the entire house with light, but it is enough for someone to walk through the darkness without stumbling. Perhaps that is what God is giving you today. Not a brilliant light that instantly removes every shadow, but a quiet light, just bright enough to reveal your next step. You do not need to see the entire hallway. You only need enough light for the next faithful step. Chosen one, give yourself permission to slow down. You do not need every answer before you go to sleep tonight. You do not need to understand every reason for your journey before tomorrow begins. Sometimes, enough light for the next step is enough. And perhaps, for today, that is all the grace you need. Chosen one. Before we part today, allow me to gather everything we've shared into 3 simple truths. The first is this: the answer you've been longing to see in your circumstances, whether it's healing for your body, freedom from financial pressure, or restoration in a relationship, may not unfold in the way you expect, and no one can honestly promise you a specific timeline. The second is this: yet even while the outward situation remains uncertain, something else may already be taking place, something deeper. Perhaps the way you see your suffering is changing. Perhaps the relationship you have with yourself is becoming healthier. Perhaps your trust in the one who is greater than everything you can control is quietly growing stronger. And the third is this: because of that, you can stand firm today. Not because every circumstance has changed, but because something within you, has already begun to change. Chosen one, if these words have spoken to your own journey, I invite you to share this message with someone you know, someone who may also be walking through a long season of waiting, not because you should feel obligated, and not because something will happen if you do, but because sometimes the greatest gift we can offer another person is the reminder that they are not walking through the dark hallway alone. And if you feel comfortable, leave a few words in the comments. Tell us about the season you're walking through. It doesn't have to be eloquent. It doesn't have to sound spiritual. It only needs to be honest. Chosen one, when this video ends, your circumstances may still look exactly the same. The illness may still be there. The financial burden may still remain. The silence within your marriage may still be waiting for another conversation. Perhaps even tonight. I cannot promise you those things will change tomorrow, or next week, or by any specific date. No one can truthfully make that promise for you. But I can say this with confidence. Perhaps the way you now look at those circumstances has shifted, even if only slightly. And sometimes, that quiet change in perspective becomes the first step toward a transformation that only time will fully reveal. Chosen one, before we say goodbye, may I leave you with a simple blessing. May your heart find rest, even while your circumstances have not. May you discover a peace that remains steady, even when your questions remain unanswered. And whatever tomorrow brings, may you continue walking forward with a strength that rises from within, a strength no circumstance can take away. Stand firm, chosen one. For today, that is enough.